Hey guys, what's up? What exactly is a real martial art? And that in and of itself that's a loaded question, especially these days. It's no secret that I happen to practice Chinese martial arts on and off, and I like them. Granted, tried to go about it in a more practical way, which puts me at odds with some people. Other people, they like that approach, whatever. Other people ask me why do I even bother because they feel that there's even more practical ones to follow. I, I, I've already stated why I like practicing what I practice, and that's not going to change. But I try to go at it a more practical approach. But it's no secret that Chinese martial arts or traditional martial arts or whatever, however you want to frame it, is being viewed with a lot of skepticism these days. And I mean, with the advent of, the internet, videos, people recording things, we're seeing video after video of MMA guys just rolling up on some, martial arts master, somebody who's claiming martial arts mastery, and they'll challenge them and then kick all types of shit out of them. And that will, definitely provide a whole lot of essays and other videos and say, see, this shit don't work. This shit don't work. It ain't real. It ain't real. It ain't real. And I think on the surface, well, yeah. But if we go a little bit deeper than that, I think it's not as clear cut. No, this is not me trying to be an apologist for this sort of thing. Rather, I want to kind of put this in a somewhat different perspective. I think people need to remember that a lot of this martial arts practice stuff is being done by people who aren't necessarily doing it for the reasons that it used to be done. Back when melee combat was more of a norm, when projectile combat wasn't the default, martial arts was a way to put food on the table. It was an applicable skill. This was like working men's skills. Just like, certain craftsmen, they need to learn how to use certain tools in order to build things, fix things, make things. Just like, certain artisans, they need to know how to cook. They need to know how to, work with, that's how they put food on the table. That's their livelihood. Well, earlier, martial arts was a livelihood. It was a skill that you needed in order to get a particular type of job or to do a particular type of work. So in that framework, yeah, the reason why you're practicing it is for pretty much one reason. We're not living in that age anymore. But martial arts are still being appreciated for different reasons. It's no longer about putting food on the table through physical skills, and those skills needed to be practical enough to keep you alive so you can continue to put food on the table. It's combat. You got to be good at combat. You got to be able to use your working tools, swords, knives, spears, what have you, shields, armor. Later on, firearms, using bows, things like that. These are practical skills that are being used in a practical way. And at the end of the day, they keep you alive. They help to serve whatever state you happen to be in, or maybe you're just a bandit, so you're just serving yourself. Who knows? Or maybe you're just protecting your village. They serve the practical purpose. Those reasons are almost non-existent now. Yes, there are people who still practice these arts these days for practical reasons, but for the most part, people do it as a form of recreation, or they do it for exercise, or they do it for self-development. There's different reasons and different levels, and because of that, people are practicing them in a way that isn't necessarily geared towards that more extreme practicality. This then lends to the question, well, are they martial artists? And depending on who you talk to, you're probably going to hear arguments for both sides. You're going to hear arguments saying that no, people who aren't practicing for strict practicality, they're not martial artists at all. And you'll have other people going, well, and they'll have caveats for it. I tend to fall a little bit more for the practical camp. I'm not saying that you can't practice martial arts for a reason other than practicality. I think that if you want to do it because you think it's a really good way to stay in shape, fine. You want to do it because you think it makes you look cool, fine. You're trying to do it because you're hoping to be a stuntman or stuntwoman, or you're hoping to get into movies, into action movies, fine. My only caveat, and this is me personally, my only caveat is that at the end of the day, you can still use it to defend yourself in some fashion. If you find yourself in a combat type situation and you have no clue what to do, then yeah, you probably shouldn't call yourself a martial artist. Now, that's me. There are people who have other different stipulations, and there's some people with much harsher stipulations than me on both ends of the spectrum. You will have some people who go like, you are not a martial artist unless you are a professional fighter. You're in the ring, you know how to fight on the ground, you know how to fight standing up, and you're using only the most practical of practical techniques, and you're not doing any of this so-called blasting people from across the room with chi or any of that nonsense. Like that, a real martial artist is somebody who is a fighter, professional fighter through and through. And then you'll have other people going, well, that's not a real martial artist because they don't know the history of their martial art. They haven't studied. They aren't cultured. They, haven't spent years in an academy developing their skills and fully researching the arts and learning different forms and learning different structures and writing books about it and getting into debates about it and discussing things with other masters. And like, unless you are a complete learned individual as well as a fighting man, you're not a real martial artist. And there are people out there who think that way and try to be like this super martial arts renaissance man, or we'd call him the warrior scholar, the enlightened swordsman type. There are people who actually still to this day, that's the ideal they're going for. And it's not just a Chinese thing. If you've ever heard of somebody saying that I am an urban samurai, and they meditate, and they got the books, and they're putting out blogs and things like that, that's sort of the same thing, And they would consider themselves to be more of a martial artist than somebody who just goes to the gym and hits a heavy bag for a while, and then, spars with somebody and says, oh, you're just focusing on the physical. You're not fully developed. How are you a martial artist? Who's right? I mean, I got my own particular beliefs on that, but that's the thing. We all got our own different perspectives on it. Now, this is not me trying to say, well, everyone's got a different perspective, so everyone is right. Everyone can be a martial artist. No. As I said already, if you can't defend yourself, or if you at least have no freaking clue how to, you probably shouldn't call yourself one. If you're also claiming attributes that you don't have, such as being able to hurt someone without even touching them, you're not a martial artist. Come on, you're a con man. That's what you are. But there's clearly, I think we can make certain distinctions on who can claim something about practicing martial arts and who's just freaking trying to pull the wool over your eyes. Like, who's playing games and who actually is taking this somewhat seriously for whatever reasons they happen to be taking it up. But even with that said, there's still this sort of wide spectrum here on, well, what can we consider to be real and what can we consider to be fake? I will say this isn't the first time that this has happened, and it isn't exactly happening in the way that we tend to think of it. Like right now, for instance, when it comes to the whole Chinese martial arts versus MMA thing, it tends to be framed like, well, Westerners are beating up Chinese fighters. It's not really what's going on. Like, lest people forget, the guys who are going around China beating up so-called masters right now are Chinese. I'm hoping this doesn't escape some people's notice. These are Chinese fighters going to other Chinese fighters and going, your kung fu sucks. Another interesting wrinkle is some of them are even saying, I'm challenging you because I know you don't do kung fu. That's something that some people have missed. Like I really wish I could remember names, but one of the first guys who really got known for doing this, because now there's like more than one guy doing this. But I think it was like the first main guy known for going around beating up so-called fake masters. He specifically was going after people who he felt were straight up fake. He wasn't challenging traditional Chinese martial arts directly. He wasn't saying all this Chinese kung fu stuff is crap. That's not really what he was saying. I'm pretty sure he probably believes it. I wouldn't be surprised. But his main thing is, I'm going after the fakes. I'm going after the people who are putting on airs, who are claiming mastery of skills that I know they don't have. So, like, notice some of the people he's going after. For instance, he was going after a Tai Chi guy who made up his own style. Not somebody who actually, was established through an already established martial art. Like, he just made something up. So it's like, what the hell is this dude? I'm going to knock him out. That aspect of it, I noticed, was not being focused on. It was more like, oh, he beat up this Tai Chi guy. No, he beat up a dude claiming mastery in an art that he didn't have any mastery in, and he was just some dude who made up some shit. This, in my opinion, is a more modern take of the dude who just one day kicks down the door of some martial arts school going, "You're conning people. I challenge you." That's sort of what's going on. Proving who really has fighting skills and who doesn't. It just so happens, unfortunately, that a lot of the people who are claiming these skills who are now getting challenged are people who are hiding behind so-called traditional Chinese martial arts. Because there is, I gotta be blunt, there are a lot of charlatans in this field. So, and not only that, but there are also a lot of people training in it who aren't training in it for the practical reasons anymore. Or worse, or, they're pretty much fluffing themselves up. They're not practicing in a way that would actually give them skills. They're not practicing the art in a way that would actually strengthen themselves, mind, body, and spirit, or whatever. Which is a shame, because many of these arts actually could strengthen them, but they're not doing it that way. For a variety of reasons, of which I've already touched on in other videos, and I don't really need to get into here. To be fair, the same thing happens with so many other arts. I mean, do I dare even mention ninjutsu? Do the fact that I said that I know stuff's going to come out the woodwork there, but you know what I mean. There's charlatans everywhere. So sooner or later, there's going to be somebody who's going to kind of shake the tree, so to speak. Like, okay, I've had enough. Let's see who can really throw down. And this has happened several times before in different arts, in different fields, in different times. However, I'm thinking that it's not just this sort of thing about, real fighters versus fake fighters, though I think that's part of it. I'm thinking there's also kind of for lack of a better term, a kind of clash of cultures things going on. Where, you could say that it's not just about real versus fake. It could also be considered, tradition versus innovation. It could, conservatism versus change. It could be old versus new. It could be east versus west. In fact, all these different aspects can be seen in what we're looking at right now, especially with the world's wariness of China. Like, there's a lot of tension going on these days between, with how the world views China and how China views its own position in the world. Do I dare even mention what's going on in Hong Kong right now? And because of these tensions, several things are going to be looked at critically and assessed critically. And one of the things we're going to be seeing is martial arts. They're going to be looking at so many different aspects of their culture. How they view themselves politically, culturally, what's truly ethical, what's not. How do you truly run a country? What's the right way? What's the wrong way? How do you become what is a proper human being culturally? These things are all being addressed, and martial arts is, I think, is yet another one of those things that's being addressed right now, which is why we're seeing these MMA versus these sorts of fights, and then why now we're seeing articles, oh, Chinese martial arts is probably fake. It's yet another critique on something that, at the moment, some people are finding a reason to challenge. And again, this is nothing new. Japan kind of went through the same thing. years ago. In fact, that's part of the reason why I wanted to put out this video. This has been in my mind for a while, but someone recently put out a very good article on this as well. And they touched on the fact that when Japan was beginning to rise up in the world during the late 1800s, early 1900s, when they were becoming a world power, it was starting to shake up the West a little bit. And so they started examining, well, who are these Japanese people? And there was a fascination with their culture and their mindset and their martial arts. And there soon became this, articles and opinions on how effective is their martial arts really. And some people argued for the positive and some for the not so positive. It's not them. I gotta remember, I'll put a link in the description to this article. The website itself is a very good website for anybody who's really interested in the more historical aspects of martial arts. If you want to get more of a scholarly aspect of the development of martial arts, I highly recommend this website, Kung Fu Tea. It's a really good site for people who want to delve deeper into the development of martial arts in the modern age, and of course in the past. But yeah, I personally am thinking that there's what we're seeing right now is this sort of clash of ideas and a reevaluation, of martial arts itself and how it should be viewed. I'm thinking it also happens to tie into re-examining the culture that these arts came from as well. This is just one facet of it. But where does that leave the people practicing these arts? Well, at the end of the day, people are just going to do what people are going to do. What I mean by that is, people are going to decide whether they're going to want these arts to be more practical or whether they want to delve deeper into the mystery side of it or the more esoteric side of it or the more abstract side of it. Some people are just going to be like, you know what, I just like practicing Tai Chi because it makes me feel good. I'm not interested in punching people in the face. And they'll learn the forms and they'll get quite good at it. Their body mechanics are going to be excellent and they'll be very good at that. And you know what? They've preserved the art in that way. I can't really find too much fault in that, other than I would, of course, ask them, do you know how to use it? And by the way, it's something I should say. When I say they should know how to use it or should at least understand how to defend themselves, I'm not expecting them to be able to fight at a high freaking level. Just at the very, if I happen to throw a punch at them, can they at least deflect it? They're not going to be, win or lose. Even if they lose, if they at least show some competence, okay, they weren't wasting their time. I mean, yeah, they need to get a little bit stronger, but at least they didn't instantly fold in 5 seconds, that sort of thing. You know what I mean? I hope you guys get what I'm talking about. Also realize that martial arts, at least if they want to keep it alive, has always been developing and it has always been influenced by outside sources. Chinese martial arts even has constantly been in flux. If you examine styles, you'll begin to realize that new styles, or at least different styles, popped up because somebody encountered something from somewhere else. Or they might have noticed something from another culture, like, oh, this kind of works here. And there's many examples of that. Of okay, I was doing it this way, but then this guy over there did it that way, and I like that better, and they tried to evolve their art or modernize it or change it up somehow. And it's still going on to this day. Right now, I'm noticing that there's this movement to kind of take a more Western approach to practicing these Eastern arts. I'm seeing more and more people, for instance, putting on, helmets and protective gear and gloves and weapon sparring. I almost never saw this in the past. I never saw stuff like this during, I heard it was happening, but I never saw it in the 80s and 90s. But now I'm seeing more and more guys in Chinese martial arts beginning to act like HEMA people, where they're putting on the gloves, they're putting on the armor, they're putting on padding, and they are doing practical sparring to figure out what techniques work and which ones don't. And even the ones that supposedly don't, how do we make this work? They're really getting back into it and we're going to like make these skills practical again. That's a positive aspect of this whole, meeting of, a Western approach or a more modern approach. And more people are looking at the way MMA goes about things. And keep in mind, remember, MMA stands for mixed martial arts. It's taking different approaches and making something effective out of it. And different MMA stylists, they don't all fight the same. There's certain aspects, certain attributes that they're really, they focus on, or certain techniques that they really like, and they build their styles around that. They make themselves well-rounded, but there's certain things that they happen to focus on, so they got different ways of going about it. The same thing happened with Chinese martial arts. They've been mixing, like even in the so-called traditional arts, and I've talked about this before, different styles borrowed from each other and mixed up stuff all the time. Certain schools, in fact, were famous for taking something from here, from there, whatever, and making a whole new curriculum out of it, and like, this is our martial art. But it was a mix of things. Even Bagua Zhang, which is the art I like, that in a weird sort of way, you can look at it sort of as a mixed martial art. It came about through, like, okay, the guy who originally found it, Dong Hai Chuan, he taught it to different people who had different skills. One person was a long fist exponent, and he used those skills to help develop his version of Bagua. Another guy was more of a wrestler, Chung style Bagua, which later came out from that. That's more of a grappling aspect of it. And I see people practicing a little bit from both. But it's taking one approach and doing it in a different way and mixing up different aspects to make a different art for themselves. And Bagua itself happens to borrow different concepts and moves from other martial arts around it. It happens all the time. You can't fighting skills have to evolve with the time. Otherwise, they're no longer good. Period. And there were enough decent fighters in the past from all these different places where these traditional arts came from who understood that, which is why they constantly kept developing their art to something else. Borrowing from here, taking from there, changing it up here, changing it up there. I mean, you'll even hear sometimes, the way the guy used to practice his art in the beginning was different from the way he practiced it when he got older. After, encountering different other martial arts and trading notes back and forth. Like, oh, you might want to try it this way. Oh, this is a new technique. This is awesome. You'll even sometimes see, you could tell something from a different system made its way into another. Wing Chun, for instance, is a close-range fighting art. What's a 6.5-point pole doing in it? See what I mean? I'm going a bit off topic, but I guess the main thing I'm trying to say is this. Right now, what we're seeing with this whole MMA versus traditional arts, it's a bit more complicated than it's being portrayed as. It's a whole lot deeper than just, oh, these arts are all fake and the MMA guys are proving it. It's a little bit deeper than that. It's a little bit more involved than that. And I think if you truly want to understand what's going on, and if you truly want to see the value of whatever it is you're practicing, it pays to look a little beyond the headlines. But that's only if you're interested in that sort of thing. Sometimes at the end of the day, you just want to watch a video and see somebody get punched in the face after the first 15 seconds. Entertainment's entertainment, do you? Anyway, that's it. Catch you guys later. Hey guys, hope you liked that last video. It was supposed to have been up a while ago. I just got caught up with a whole lot of other stuff and wasn't able to get this up fast enough, but finally got it up. Hope you guys enjoyed it. It was supposed to be another video before that one, which was a little bit more serious, but because of the subject matter and because of how YouTube has been lately, I didn't know if it was safe to put it out, so I'm just going to wait a little bit before I put that one out, but we'll see. In the meantime, for those of you who are, inclined to do so, and I do hate asking, but I mean, it's something that does help, I do have a Patreon account. It has been dwindling a bit lately, but I think it's my own fault for that because I haven't been putting up videos at the rate that I really should be, and I'm trying to put a foot on my own ass to do that. But if you like what you're seeing and you want to see more of it, consider, throw me a couple bucks. It does help. Believe me, it helps a lot. And sort of in the same vein, I'm also looking to get rid of a few things. I got certain swords that I just got to get rid of. This is one of them. This is a really nice piece, and I really kind of don't want to get rid of it, but if I'm going to be justifying things here, if I'm going to be realistic, yeah, I don't really use katana much, and this is one of the nicer pieces, and I don't want to get rid of this one, but it's got to go. It is a really nice piece, like I said before. Barely been used. Folded steel, a real Hamon. Fittings are all tight and everything. Good quality pieces. It's imitation silk wrapping, but it still feels pretty good in the hand. Anybody who's interested, I'm probably gonna toss this one out for about like anywhere from $375 to $400, depending. We could talk price, I guess. But I was gonna toss this on eBay or Craigslist, but I figured I'd give you guys first crack at it. So if you're interested, just hit me with a private message or email me, and we can get to talking about it. So yeah, that's the piece. I'll have like pictures up for whoever asks, and that's it. Till then, gotta hurry up and get cracking with the next video. I still got more footage to record for that one. But until then, you guys have a good one, and catch you guys later.